It was a quiet evening, the kind where the air feels heavy and the streets are almost too still. I was driving home after a long day at work, my mind wandering, when I saw the flashing lights in my rearview mirror. My heart sank. I wasn't speeding, hadn't run a light, hadn't done anything wrong. But I knew this drill. I'd seen it play out too many times before. On the news, in stories from friends, in the quiet, unspoken fear that lived in the back of my mind every time I got behind the wheel. I pulled over, my hands gripping the wheel tightly. The cop car stopped behind me, and I watched in the mirror as the officer stepped out. He was tall, his face stern, his walk deliberate. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I knew what was coming. I'd been here before in a way. Not me personally, but people who looked like me. People who shared my skin color, my history, my fear. He approached my window, his flashlight shining in my face. "License and registration," he said, his voice cold, almost robotic. I reached for my glove compartment, moving slowly, deliberately. I didn't want to give him any reason to escalate things. I'd heard the stories. I knew how quickly things could go wrong. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" he asked, his tone accusatory. "No, officer, I don't," I replied, keeping my voice calm. I handed him my license and registration, my hands trembling slightly. He took them without a word, glancing at the documents, then back at me. His eyes narrowed. "Step out of the car," he ordered. My stomach churned. "Why? What's the problem?" I asked, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. "Just step out of the car," he repeated, his voice harder now. I opened the door and stepped out, my legs feeling like jelly. He told me to put my hands on the hood of the car, and I complied. He started patting me down, his hands rough, invasive. I felt humiliated, angry, but I stayed silent. I knew better than to argue. I'd seen the videos. I knew how this could end. "You fit the description of a suspect we're looking for," he said, as if that explained everything. "What suspect?" I asked, my voice shaking now. "I'm a state senator. I was just driving home." He paused for a moment, then scoffed. "A state senator? Yeah, right." He continued his search, his disbelief clear in his tone. I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but I blinked them back. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. He finished the pat-down and stepped back, still holding my license. "Wait here," he said, walking back to his car. I stood there, my hands still on the hood, my mind racing. How many times had this happened to people who looked like me? How many times had they been treated like criminals just for existing? I thought about my family, my community, the people I represented. This wasn't just about me. This was about all of us. Minutes passed, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally he returned, his expression unreadable. He handed me back my license. "You're free to go," he said, his voice flat. I took my license, my hands still trembling. "What about the suspect?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer, just turned and walked back to his car. I got back into my car, my heart pounding. I sat there for a moment, trying to collect myself. Then I drove home, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on me. When I got home, I called my husband. As soon as I heard his voice, the tears came. I told him everything, my voice breaking with each word. He listened, his anger palpable even over the phone. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. "I don't know," I admitted. I don't know." The next day, I went to the police station. I filed a complaint, but I knew it wouldn't change much. The system was broken, and one complaint wasn't going to fix it. But I had to do something. I had to speak up. I thought about that officer, his disbelief when I told him who I was. It didn't matter that I was a state senator. In his eyes, I was just another black woman, another suspect. And that hurt more than anything. But I also thought about the people I represented. The ones who didn't have a platform, who didn't have a voice. I thought about how I could use my position to fight for them, have to push for change, and that gave me strength. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And I wasn't going to back down. Not now, not ever. A few days later, I stood at a podium in front of a crowd of reporters, community leaders, and citizens. My voice was steady, but my heart was heavy. I told them what had happened to me. I told them about the fear, the humiliation, the anger, and then I told them about the work we needed to do, to reform the system, to hold people accountable, to make sure no one else had to go through what I did. The room was silent when I finished, and then slowly the applause began. It wasn't just for me, It was for everyone who had ever been treated unfairly, for everyone who had ever been made to feel less than human because of the color of their skin. As I stepped away from the podium, I felt a sense of resolve. This wasn't just my fight. It was ours. And together, we could make a difference, one step at a time. Hey everyone, if this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you why we need to keep having these conversations, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps spread awareness. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Let's talk about it. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're here to share real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Lastly, share this with your friends and family. The more people who see this, the more we can bring awareness and change. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Let's keep pushing forward, together.